The PSVR is out now. Is this thing going to succeed, or will it join the PlayStation Move and PlayStation Vita as another failed peripheral from Sony? Let me know what you think in the comments down below, and don't forget to hit that like button. It's pretty funny if you compare the PlayStation VR with the PlayStation Move, they have more in common than you think. Of course, VR is totally different than using a bow and arrow in Sports Champions, because you're simply still looking at a TV screen when using the Move. Although you still use the Move controllers with most of the PlayStation VR games, my point is that if we look at the launches of both systems and also the games, they are kinda similar, the PlayStation Vita as well, and that is also the sad part, because we both know the fate of the Move and the latest Sony handheld. So, do we have to worry about the PlayStation VR? I totally forgot that the PlayStation Move had a ton of exclusive launch games, or even games that came after that. We had Sports Champions, Starter Party, my favorite, SingStar Dance Party, fucking Tumble, you know, that game that also is a launch title for the PlayStation VR. Ugh. We also see some of the same developers during the launch lineup, and also that supported the system with PlayStation Move and PlayStation VR. London studio from Sony, of course, Supermassive Games, known from Until Dawn, and they're also doing now Tumble and of course the Until Dawn game. Looking at the games, we can also say that they are kind of similar. I mean, they're both kind of gimmicky or mini games. VR Worlds, of course, we have the sport type of game with Headmasters. We have Batman, that's just a 1 hour experience. Until Dawn Rush Your Blood, already talked about that. It's not a real Until Dawn game because you're in a cart doing the Unreal shooter thing. We also see a little bit of the same support from the third party devs. I already mentioned Warner Bros with Batman. Well, they also made a Move game called Lord of the Rings Aragorn's Quest. Ubisoft is also jumping the PSVR or VR ship in general, but they also had Ruse with Move and Racket Sports. I didn't even know that game existed because there were just a ton of sports games. They also had Just Dance Kids and A Child of Eden, and that game was kinda made for motion controls, although you could also play it with the controller. My point is that there are a lot of similarities here. Also the fact that both the Move, PlayStation VR and Vita don't have titles from big Sony studios like Naughty Dog and Santa Monica at this point is kinda worrying. Of course, the PlayStation VR launch just happened and we still have like a huge life cycle hopefully in front of us, but right now we have no word on a big first party studio working on the system. Guerrilla Cambridge is the closest one we get. I mean, it's Guerrilla, but it's not like the real Guerrilla, it's like their Cambridge studio, smaller, but they still make great games. I mean, Riggs, from what I've played, I played like 1 hour already, and that was awesome. And also the reviews tend to agree, they are very positive. People call this the biggest must-have title for the PlayStation VR right now, and that is from a first-party studio, so we need more games from them. They make the awesome experience we want. On the Move and the PlayStation Vita, we also saw tech demos and mini games, and we all know how that went. Also, a small but very important thing in my opinion is that the Vita and the PlayStation VR cannot be used right out of the box. For the PlayStation VR you need the camera to make it work, and without a Vita memory card you were also left in the cold. Just a quick reminder that Sony is still screwing us with their new hardware releases with a quote-unquote $399 price point. But VR is bigger than motion controls and handhelds. I mean, not right now because the Wii has still been an enormous success, but I mean potential. The potential is way bigger. You can really transform to another place. I mean, you forget literally everything around you. This is why a lot of huge companies like HTC and Valve, Facebook, Samsung and Google are all investing in this technology, some even more than others. We didn't really see this huge push with motion controls or handheld gaming devices. Microsoft and Nintendo invested in motion controls because they are gaming companies, but now also Facebook and Samsung are like looking at big investments into VR. The big investments that these big companies make doesn't particularly mean that the PSVR will succeed though. Just that a lot of companies seem to trust this VR technology and want to push it. It's still that Sony is pushing this system with the failed Move controllers and the camera. You previously only got it if you wanted to pursue a streaming career, but ended up regretting that because of the poor quality. Another difference from the other Sony failed systems, including the Move, is that the PlayStation VR is way more expensive. Okay, I totally understand why. It's a 360 screen, there is also like this processor box, and there are an enormous amount of wires. If you really want to go that far and don't get motion sick by using the VR headset and don't mind the kind of poor quality, well, then you can use the PlayStation VR as your new TV screen, which is pretty nice. On the other hand, if you have to invest around the $500 to do anything with this system, also games and Move controllers are pretty like needed for most of the games, then I want to see Sony invest in this as well. Why should I do it when Sony is like holding their big companies back to make good games for this system? If this thing fails, you lost way more than jumping on the Move and even the Vita, for example. While I don't regret buying my Vita though, because there are many great Japanese titles that I played, but still, Sony itself totally dropped the bomb on that handheld, and hopefully it will not do it with the PlayStation VR, but it's kinda hard to believe. The real thing that PlayStation VR has going for it, which is of course super important, and that is the developers of the guys that are making the experiences that we want. Almost everyone in the gaming industry is sold on VR. I mean, I can see why it's awesome, why it's pretty revolutionary even, especially with rigs, for example. The tension when you get when entering the arena, the fact that you have no distraction whatsoever during a game. For developers, it's totally a new way to make games. Veterans are eager to investigate this because the games has been staggering at this point. We got the first-person action games, open world type of games. This VR can totally change it. All the developers I talked to at E3 and Gamescom all loved VR and are toying around with it at their studios. So if they come up with the amazing experiences and also realize it and release it for PlayStation VR, then there is a lot of hope for this system. I mean, if I remember it correctly, it was totally different with Move controls, especially when Move came out, because we already saw that the Wii Sports was awesome, but after that, what did we do? With Zelda it was a gimmick, with other titles we didn't want to use the Move controllers, the wiggly woggly controllers all the time. So when Move and Kinect came around, it was already kinda over, so people that were probably making games for that system were like, yeah, we just gotta do it, or we have to put like support in it for this game because Sony asked us to. And while with VR it's really something different, it's really awesome. People that buy the system, I mean, I played it a lot and every time I came back it was awesome. Well, when I tried Move controllers for the first time, I was like, okay, yeah, I don't want this. I know that I don't want to play games this way. While with VR you can also of course use a controller, but I want those experiences because they really immerse me more than ever before. VR is still in the early phases of development, and I understand that of course we will probably see great use of VR in games, but will we see those games on the PlayStation VR? Will Sony invest a huge amount in those games? I'm just not sold yet. PlayStation Experience is really a great place to announce such games. If after the press conference we are still left with Farpoint as the most interesting or high budget exclusive, then I think we can worry and we may see the things that happened to the Move and Vita. Hopefully not, because I love the device, but looking at the reviews and the fact that only Rigs is a game that I want to keep coming back to, it's simply not worth the huge investment right now. Let me know what you think of the success factor of the PlayStation VR and subscribe for more PlayStation VR content. Like the video if you did, and I will speak to you next time. Goodbye.